As Joseph Knight looks at his wife Polly, he knows she's deathly sick. Their son Newell rushes ashore to buy lumber for her coffin, knowing it won't be long now. However, Polly continually pleads with the group of about 60 saints not to stop or take breaks in this month-long trek down the Ohio River, up the Mississippi River, and west on the Missouri River. Polly tenaciously holds on to life, for her greatest desire is to set foot in Zion. But what is Zion? And why were Polly, Joseph Smith, and many others so intent on getting there? Well, Zion means a lot of things to a lot of people. Anciently, Zion was named after one of the hills of Jerusalem where Solomon built his holy temple. But the cause of Zion has interested people of God in every age, particularly the saints, who picture Zion as a promised land and peaceful refuge for the righteous to flee from the wickedness of the world. Now, prior to this trek, Polly and her husband Joseph spent their lives helping and taking care of the Colesville Saints. If you remember, they'd settled in early May on Lehman Copley's land in Kirtland, Ohio, after traveling from New York. And although Lehman had initially welcomed them gladly, he suddenly had a very unpleasant change of heart. He booted them off his land and charged them for it, leaving the Knights and all of the Colesville Saints homeless. After counseling with the prophet, the Lord answers their heartfelt prayers by directing them to continue on to Missouri, where they'll build Zion. Now, even though the official church had only been in Ohio for less than 6 months, the Lord sends 3 groups of saints, including the Colesville branch, 3 states away. Joseph Smith eagerly leads the second group to Missouri with Edward Partridge, Sidney Rigdon, Joseph Coe, Martin Harris, W. Phelps, and Sidney and Elizabeth Gilbert. Phelps is called to write educational books for children and to be the church printer, while Gilbert is called to be the bishop's agent and establish a store for the saints in Missouri. The third group includes about a dozen sets of missionaries traveling to Missouri by various routes, preaching and teaching along the way. Most of them willingly accept the call, but a few aren't ready or willing. For example, Simon's Ryder refuses to go because his name is spelled wrong in his mission call. He feels that, as a prophet, Joseph should know how to spell his name. He won't accept the fact that Joseph is simply human and a really bad speller. Yep, miraculously, the Lord can even take a bad speller and turn him into a prophet. Now, preaching in Indiana, successful missionaries Zebedee Coltrane and Levi Hancock are confronted by some angry residents who order them to leave the next day by 10 a.m. or else. After they discuss and pray about it, they feel impressed to stay because they're scheduled to hold a meeting at 11 a.m. As they start the meeting, they see in the crowd some of the people who'd order them to leave. But, unafraid, Levi proclaims, "My father fought for your freedom in the Revolutionary War, and my relative, John Hancock, was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence." Yeah, that John Hancock. Having gained their respect, Levi then preaches the gospel, recording later, "After the meeting, we went to the water and baptized 17 out of that crowd, who the day before were going to mob us." Unfortunately, some other missionaries aren't having much success. In Missouri, elders Cowdery, Peterson, Williams, and Whitmer are still preaching the gospel in Independence, but have baptized less than 10 people due to the tough crowd in the neighborhood. They're thrilled as all of the saints from Ohio begin arriving in Independence. However, the groups arriving from Ohio are, shall we say, shocked when they find a desolate Wild West wasteland of lawlessness filled with slaveholders and folks running from the law. What? This is definitely not what they'd imagined. Interestingly, Brigham Young got a similar reaction years later when the pioneers first viewed Salt Lake Valley. All they saw was more desert, tumbleweeds, and sago lilies. How much faith did it take for them to believe this is the place and not just sit down and cry tears of frustration? Well, at least there's a beautiful lake. Oh. But of course, we know how that turned out. Now, as the groups from Ohio arrive in Missouri and see something less than ideal, some are very critical of Joseph. and even question if he can be a prophet if this is what he's calling Zion. Feeling very discouraged, Joseph asks the Lord, "When will Zion be built up in her glory? And where will thy temple stand?" 6 days after their arrival, the Lord answers that this is Zion, the land of promise, and the place for his temple. Wow, the Lord's celestial eyesight is very different from their telestial eyesight. Do we sometimes feel that way? Like the Lord is seeing something amazing, but all we see is monotonous waste. Or do we look in the mirror and only see a mere mortal, while he sees our divine potential? Often we see Babylon while he sees Zion. Wouldn't it be wonderful to see ourselves and our circumstances as the Lord sees them? But sooner or later, we may have to learn the hard lesson that we usually don't discover Zion. We often have to put in the effort to build it. Luckily, these saints and our individual ancestors from all over the world have worked very hard to prepare the way for us. And our decisions today likewise help build Zion in our families and for future generations. Now, you may be wondering what happened with Polly Knight. Graciously, the Lord did grant her righteous desire as she made it to Zion in Jackson County before passing away just a few days later. So, what choices and sacrifices are you making to build Zion? Next time, we'll learn about how these amazing saints begin to build Zion through sacrifice and hard work. We hope you enjoyed this presentation. Now it's your